It's a brand that revolutionised Formula One into the sport we know today, gave a platform to the greatest racing driver in history, and helped build time machines. But despite all its victories, Lotus had its fair share of problems. So how did this apparently unreliable automaker build some of the greatest racing and road cars of all time, and transform not only racing, but cars as a whole forever? Well, let's find out, because my name's Ike's, and you're watching QuattroCam. Now, we can't talk about Lotus without talking about the genius behind it. Anthony Colin Bruce Chapman was born in London, England in 1928. Colin was also an avid racer and would compete in numerous events, including a Formula One race. It's this love of racing that would lead him to meet a young Scotsman who would help Chapman rewrite history as we know it. But before all this, Colin would turn his engineering knowledge to his own vehicles. Like your favourite automotive YouTubers, Colin would take old bangers and give them a new lease of life, modifying not only suspension and engine components, but also using his aeronautical experience to reshell cars, making them stronger and lighter. Colin believed in keeping things simple, and this led to his famous motto: simplify, then add lightness. Colin's success on these early cars would lead him to try his hand at Formula 750 racing. The ideas would remain the same, taking an existing design, simplify it, and make it light. But Colin had another quality that would make him stand out from the crowd. He was a master of the rules, knowing the grey areas like the back of his hand. Colin would use this in Formula 750 to change every aspect of his car that the rulebook did not cover. Using his past knowledge, this Lotus would feature an aluminium body, providing lightweight strength, improved suspension, and engine modifications. Chapman would also put more focus on the car's aero, making it not only more powerful, lighter, and stiffer than the competition, but also more slippery. This car was his third, but actually the first to wear the Lotus name. As you can imagine, all those mods paid off big time for Chapman and Lotus, so much so that every other racer on the grid wanted one for themselves. This led Chapman to form Lotus Engineering in 1952, and with the help of a close friend, also called Colin, at an old barn behind his father's hotel, Lotus began to take shape. It wasn't long before the racing arm of the business grew so big that it needed its own space and name. Thus, Lotus Racing was born. Colin and Lotus would build the Lotus 7, a lightweight race car for the road, but in true Chapman style, Colin and Lotus would again push the boundaries of the rulebook and dive headfirst into the grey. To make the car even more attractive, Colin and Lotus aimed to avoid UK tax laws through a very odd but brilliant loophole. They sold the car as a kit, but that wasn't all. You see, British lawmakers had closed that little loophole long ago. Any car sold with instructions would be taxed. Case closed. Well, it would be, but this is Colin Chapman and Lotus, so they sold the car as a kit, but included Destructions, a booklet on how to disassemble the car, which owners could read in reverse to assemble it. Colin Chapman is a literal genius. The Lotus 7 followed Chapman's motto to a T. It was simple, it was light, and because of that, Lotus did not need a big, heavy, expensive engine to power it. The Lotus 7 was a sales phenomenon, so much so that the Lotus 7 is still sold today, nearly 70 years later, under the Caterham name. This success helped build their next car, the aptly named Elite. The Elite took the concepts of the day and dialed them up to 11. It had a fiberglass monocoque and Formula level aero, making the whole car a slippery, lightweight bullet. What made it more impressive is Lotus did all this engineering madness with nothing more than a pencil, a piece of paper, and a ruler. No high-tech gadgets, just pure British brain muscles. The Elite would go on to be a multiple Le Mans winner, starting a dominance by the tiny British automaker that would give rise to the greatest racing driver of all time, Jim Clark. Clark would go on to use Lotus machines to not only become a two-time Formula One champion, but also the only driver ever to win both the Indy 500 and Formula One World Championship in the same year. All this success brought us to the next noteworthy Lotus, the Elan. It had the same recipe as the Elite, but Lotus wanted the Elan to be a road-only car. Unfortunately for them, it was too good for that, and people began racing them pretty much straight away. This prompted Lotus to make their own Elan racer, the engine from which would would find its way into the Ford Cortina touring car. And despite being a humble 1.6-litre four-cylinder, the Cortina, with Lotus engine and rear suspension, challenged even the mighty American V8s for victory. Lotus wasn't done in racing either. They teamed up with Cosworth. Yes, that Cosworth, to turn their latest Formula 1 car into a beast. It was the first race car to use the engine as part of its frame, making it stiffer than the competition. Lotus would also introduce Formula 1 to sponsors, repainting their cars in iconic brand colours, something that has transformed Formula 1 into a billion-dollar game, and given Lotus their most famous look, the black and gold John Player Special. Lotus would go on to make more firsts, including the first all-wheel drive Formula 1 car and a jet turbine-powered Indy car. Lotus also gave birth to modern Formula 1. But before we get into that, we need your help. We're on a mission to hit 15,000 subscribers before the end of the year. So if you've liked this video, why not subscribe to the channel and help us reach that goal together. Now back to Lotus. The Type 72 featured large wings, a wedge-shaped design and torsion suspension, enabling it to go faster than anything else before it, helping Lotus beat lifetime rival Ferrari to be the first constructor to amass 50 race wins. The innovation would continue, with new side pod designs using their aeronautical experience. The new pods forced fast-flowing air under the car, whilst throwing hot radiator air over it, sucking the car into the tarmac and making it handle like it was on rails. Away from the racetrack, Lotus would release a new car, called the Esprit, also known as James Bond's submarine car. It took the company's motto and its Formula 1 experience to make a lightweight, mid-engine sports car good enough for the world's most famous spy.
Hang on, James.
The thought had occurred to me.
However, despite decades of success on the racetrack, Lotus was struggling. Its limited number, hand-built approach meant low volumes and questionable reliability.
When they tested one of these, they ran it around a racetrack for 24 hours straight.
Yeah.
For 22 of those hours, it didn't break down.
Seriously?
To bring in some much-needed cash, Lotus began working with other brands, including Toyota, striking up a long-term partnership that still exists today. But they also worked on something a little more Marty McFly. Lotus helped John DeLorean with the DMC-12, using its knowledge and Esprit parts bin to bring the car to life. Unfortunately, John DeLorean liked to cosplay as Tony Montana on the weekends, meaning the DeLorean went up in a cloud of dust, taking Lotus with it. This started a downward spiral for Colin and Lotus. Their latest Formula 1 car was banned, car sales were at an all-time low, and in 1982, their founder, an automotive genius, the pioneer of modern Formula 1, died of a sudden heart attack. He was just 54 years old. As you can expect, when Lotus lost its leader, things got a lot worse. Despite some success in Formula 1, thanks to drivers like Nigel Mansell and the late great Ayrton Senna, Lotus was doomed, and their long run in Formula 1 came to an end. This began a game of hot potato, with Lotus being saved and passed around investors every few years. They would, however, go on to produce some of their most iconic cars. The Lotus Elan would become the only front-wheel drive Lotus, and despite being a handling masterpiece, it could not compete with American or Japanese cars of the time. They worked on the Carlton, a Ferrari-beating saloon for the masses. That is, if the masses had $90,000. Due to internal politics, each Carlton had to be disassembled and then rebuilt by Lotus, a long and costly process, making the project unsustainable. The Elise would aim to solve this. Back came the lightweight and simple car that they were known for. This mid-engine sports car was so successful for the struggling company that they made a hardtop version and shipped it out to other manufacturers to use. Notably, Vauxhall, Tesla, and American tuners Hennessy would use the Elise as the base for their cars. It also brought back their partnership with Toyota, featuring 1.8-litre naturally aspirated and supercharged engines, making the Elise a true sports car with power and handling to match the best of the time. The Elise would evolve into the Evora. Packing a Toyota V6 from a Camry, the Evora had top trump level power figures to suit its lightweight and agile handling. The latest Lotus, the Emira, packs a Ferrari rivaling exterior with Toyota and AMG tech to make a sports car that looks, sounds, and drives like a supercar. This new look Lotus is also venturing out into the world of electric hypercars with the Evija, a 2011 horsepower, 700 Nm rocket ship that comes with race-inspired liveries and a space-age cabin. The new look Lotus is a long way from the barn in England, but it's stayed true to its founder's ideals, mixing high-tech with lightness and agility to produce nimble sports cars and poster-worthy hypercars. 2024 onwards looks promising, but also troubling for Lotus. Record sales hide large losses as the company aims to shift into the world of electric vehicles. Will it be successful? Who knows, but we hope to see Lotus produce great cars for many decades to come. Something else we hope has many more decades left in it is this channel. So if you've enjoyed this video, why not give it a like and subscribe to the channel before you go and check out what other videos we have to offer. And whilst you're here, why not let us know your favourite thing about the automaker Lotus in the comments below. We're sure there's many more stories that we haven't covered and we'd love to hear them.